let's just go ahead and start off with a theme song. Since we got such
yes,
high production values. All right. Oh, we've got art. We got
oh my God. You have nothing but time on your hands, do you?
All kind of shit.
Rebecca just cooks all the time, and you make these. And y'all just didn't plan to the grocery store.
Oh yeah.
I'm impressed.
Now we're in business.
All right.
Lord.
Yeah. You'll have to get that figured out before you invite Brian Fallon on here.
He's coming on next week.
He's not putting up with this shit.
That's why I started off with you. I knew it'd be all fucked up.
Exactly.
All right. We go the farthest back, you know. Okay. So yeah. Welcome, y'all. I figured mainly just to keep myself from going nuts and just to have something to do. I have this book. It's called Songwriters on Songwriting, and it's a great bunch of interviews, and I've always loved that book. But there's no parallel for like dirtballs like us, you know. And I
just ordered it on Amazon when you sent it to me. So
it's solid. The Paul Simon interview makes it worth it alone. You know, some people can just breeze through interviews. I think he had it in written form. He took some time. It's like a thesis statement.
No, that's the way I like doing interviews, is by email. That's my, like, yeah, I can talk to you, you know, before a show or on the phone, and you can ask me whatever, but they might not be the best answers, and they might not even be the real answers that I want to give if I had, you know, more than 5 seconds to think about it.
Yeah, but, and I don't know if you have the thing that I have with the Southern mumble mouth, but sometimes they'll translate. I'm like, that's not even a word.
Yeah.
You're doing it over the phone.
And it's crazy. Some interviews, how they just kind of paraphrase what you said. They like, they think they can put it in a better way. And you're like, that changes the meaning completely.
Yeah, but, I mean, who needs nuance? We're only talking about songs. I mean, you know, words don't matter that much.
Man, it's crazy how tricky every word has to be just right, or it can mean something completely opposite, or it's in the wrong vibe, if at the very least, you know.
Yeah, not just words matter, context matters. And actually, let's just jump right in. That's a good thing to start with. And we'll answer people's questions that they've asked sort of later on, and now we're just going to shoot the shit.
Okay.
I've known it's not an interview, so we're just
no.
It's them out there, whatever. I've known.
It's not an interview, yeah.
Yeah. No, Ben for 22 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of his songwriting. So we'll just jump right into the every word matters part about the songwriting, because you strike me as a very like you work in this strange balance of miniature with carving out the exact phrase in a casual way you would say it, and then but that miniature has to be evocative, like this big romantic, like romantic in the you know, we got to get out of this place, kind of the way that sounds romantic, you know.
I think I know what you're saying, and yeah, I agree. I think I don't know. It's kind of a cliche, but everybody talks about that Hemingway style of writing, where you know you use as few words as possible to convey as big a picture as you can. And that's, I don't know, I think that relates at least to what you were saying just there.
Yeah. And how conscious are you of that? Is that an intuitive thing you do? Is that something you do it in a different way when you're writing, and you go back and you
well, I never write words. I never write lyrics without music first. The only song I've ever written where I wrote the words first was The War, about my granddad. Everything else has been written to a piece of music. So I know exactly how many syllables I've got to say what I want to say before I ever start writing. And you're playing the song, and a lot of times you just get lucky, and whatever you happen to start mumbling over that guitar line, your brain makes it into words, and you're like, I can use that stream of consciousness bullshit and then mold it into something that might actually mean something. But But yeah, as far as being concise and the economy of words, I think writing with a certain number of syllables already predetermined kind of is maybe the reason for that. I don't know.
I mean, we're working in 4/4 for the most part. You only have the set amount of syllables.
Right. Now, you'll write just lyrics with no idea what the melody or the lyric?
Almost always.
Right? Yeah. So you're like the opposite of me in that.
Yeah. But I have melodies in mind, but I try to write away from an instrument because my ears are better songwriters than my hands. My hands touch a guitar and they want to do that same shit.
Right.
And so when I in our ears, they've been training for melodies since we were kids. It's like we've heard so much stuff. And so when I write away from an instrument, I always find that the melodies are much more interesting. And then I can go and change the chords around underneath them to,
Man, I would be lost. If I tried to just hum a melody without some kind of chords behind it, I don't know what I would do. It would be Amazing Grace over and over and over again. That's
pretty damn good song.
Melody I know by heart. So yeah, no, that's interesting. I have to have the concrete song to inspire the lyrics. And I'm not quite as disciplined as you. I don't think I only write when once studio time is booked, then I start writing.
I was gonna bring that up. It's insane. It's insane, man. It's insane to me. It makes me so anxious. What he's talking about is Ben will have 3 or 4 songs, and he'll go and book studio time for a record. Maybe not even that sometimes.
0 sometimes.
Yeah. And he'll book time for a record. Like this, we're gonna go in May, and it'll be a month out, and he'll just be like, he'll write the damn songs. He used to sit in your old man's furniture place there and just after it closed, right? Yeah.
After hours, and that was nice because there's nobody around, and that's always been one of the things about songwriting for me. Like even with my parents, they don't care, or my brothers back when I was young, like nobody in the house cared, but I still knew they could hear me, and that you'd self-edit and I wouldn't sing the right melodies, and I'd sing quieter, and I wouldn't try out words because I didn't want to sound stupid. Yep. So having that place where you can go and be completely alone, and you could yell your brains out, and no one's going to hear you, and you can yell the dumbest stuff ever to really bad guitar chords, it's amazing how much that helps songwriting.
And that you're willing to do that in the first place. Yeah, because I find that in general, what you're talking about, the self-consciousness with other people around, I find that I do that when I'm alone too. Like I'm like, that's too dumb to write down. That's too stupid to write. And I have to get that guy out of the way.
That's true.
Get out of my own way, because usually the 5th thing past that is what's interesting, and so I have to
never know. You never know what dumb shit will actually lead to, and it might be good. And sometimes you go back, 2 weeks later or a month later, and you're like, wait a second, that's not dumb at all. That's actually brilliant. I'm a genius. And then 2 days later, after that, so you're at 2 weeks and 2 days, and you're like, oh, that's completely dumb. I should not have put that on the record. That is
just swinging hard. So what do you go back to? So you say you go back later. So you go back to a notebook. How do you just simple process stuff?
Simple process stuff. Well, usually it starts with the guitar and a guitar lick or a few chords. And a lot of times I grab the cell phone and record a voice memo of these guitar parts. So then I have like 20 voice memos that I have to go back and listen to and figure out what's worth pursuing and what's not.
Have you ever had him come on at a party? Sorry to jump in, but
no,
I
don't go to parties.
I was using my phone as a shuffle one time to DJ, like for some friends at a party, and my voice notes, they were in the shuffle. Oh Lord!
How do you put your voice notes in
yelling in my phone driving down the highway?
How do you put your voice notes in a? You know what? This does not pertain.
Yeah.
No, it's never happened to me. Tangent. But. So yeah, voice memos, but they're usually just guitar parts and me kind of yelling a melody that has no words. Then, I play around with those and try to find the stuff that's worth focusing on. And then I'll go, I've seen you've been trying to work on your home studio skills.
Trying to figure it out. Boy, it's, I mean, you saw when I tried to connect the phone to you. That's about how I am with computer. I'm like,
yeah,
I just recorded this. Where is it?
It's not as embarrassing when I'm by myself using GarageBand, but yeah, I'm not the fastest. I'm sure there's shortcuts I could use, but GarageBand is my thing. Apple.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I've seen your setup, but tell folks like how you once you got the general idea.
Yeah, then you go over here to the GarageBand, and I plug into that little red guy right there, and play. Yeah, that's what I do. And these are all my notes. This is what it looks like then when I'm working on lyrics for it. Can you see that? It's a bunch of paper. But yeah.
Do you chop it up and work on structure in a GarageBand thing, or is that more you think the structure out before you start laying demos?
Usually I hash it out in GarageBand. I'll do kind of a rough thing in GarageBand just to hear it as a song, to kind of get an idea of what it's actually going to be like, and to try to get some words on top of it and try to get a handle on it. I do that in GarageBand. And then, I can be like, oh, well, it obviously doesn't need 2 choruses. It needs a bridge. And I do the is that arranging? Is that what you call song? And yeah, deciding how long, do I need 2 verses in a row, blah, blah, blah. How long should the bridge be? That kind of gets worked out in GarageBand. Or I at least have it there, and then I know when I take it to the guys, it's going to be different than what it is in GarageBand. It gives me an idea of kind of what I'm working with.
Someone had asked about that. Yeah. They asked about a specific song, and I didn't write all this shit down ahead of time, but they had asked you about a song that changed from there was a studio.
Yeah, I bet it was probably Texas and Tennessee. Well, I don't know. Texas and Tennessee got written in one night, real quick. And then we actually went down and recorded that EP at Luther and Cody's place, the Zebra Ranch down there in Mississippi. But it was like just a couple days after I'd written it. So that song didn't have very long to develop. Luckily, it showed up pretty quick, kind of fully formed, except for the bridge. It didn't have a bridge when we originally recorded it.
And who pointed out? Did you? What? Sorry, did you figure that out yourself, or is it something
that it didn't have a bridge?
Band? Well, no, that it needed a bridge. Was that a band member? Was that the producer? Or?
It was a Ted Hutt thing. It was Ted Hutt, the producer. We were thinking about putting it on, maybe All a Man Should Do or whatever. Yeah, whatever. Because that was recorded in between 1372, Overton Park, and All a Man Should Do. And we were thinking about putting Texas and Tennessee on All a Man Should Do. And we recorded a version of it, but we changed the key, and it wasn't quite, I don't know. It's an interesting version. I don't even have a copy of it. I don't know where it is. But that's when I wrote the bridge. Ted was like, no, this song's too good. It's too good to not have a bridge. Ted's very kind of traditional in his thinking. Every song needs a certain structure. And so yeah, I got lucky. I got really lucky because, again, I had to write. He's like, we need a bridge, and it has to be written, by the end of the day, just because we were so busy. Because we had like 2 weeks to record that record. And so we were at Ardent at the time. And so I went back where the couches were, kind of in the back corner of Ardent, and was trying to write this bridge. And I referenced Otis Redding in it. So I just stole a couple of Otis Redding titles, Pain in My Heart, These Arms of Mine. I'm like, okay, that's a a great start for a bridge so far. That's great lyrics. But then I got real lucky with the Tennessee Nights and the Texas Dark. I was like, ooh, yeah, that makes it just melancholy enough and just.
Well, again, it's that thing that I was talking about, where you have that very concrete miniature thing that opens up really big. The Texas Dark, you can't open the song up.
Yeah, you got Tennessee Nights, but you got Texas Dark. That kind of sums up the whole song. And that was luck. And it just, there wasn't a whole lot of thought that went into it. That was just adrenaline taking over and saying, oh, okay, I'm gonna give you a pass on this one. Here's what you
Yeah.
need to say.
Well, luck doesn't count for anything if you don't recognize it when you stumble across it. You know, you can keep going, and so it's.
There's been plenty of times when I need to write a bridge really bad or a chorus really bad, and I'm stuck with what I've got, and that brilliant kind of idea doesn't come to me. I'm trying to think of a song. I know there's songs that are on records that are like that. Maybe speaking of All a Man Should Do record, that Man I Was song, I'm real proud of it and I like it, but I know there's a line in there that I was searching and searching, and I was like, man, if I can just get this one lyric changed, this song will really be, it'll be epic. And I know I never got it. So I won't say which line it is, just because I still love the song and I don't want to ruin it for I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But I know that song is 99% there. There was something else that I still deep down feel like it needed, and I never quite got there. But luckily enough, that's why you get to write. Luckily enough, we get to write more songs, and so just because. And every song, I don't know. This is one thing. I don't know if you struggle with this or not, but kind of reconciling the fact that not every song has to be Born to Run. Not every song has to be an epic whatever.
The world needs more Louie Louie too. Yeah.
Exactly. I think I've said that to you before in the past. I'm like, there's nothing wrong. Louie Louie is a great fucking rock and roll song. And I don't hold anything against Louie Louie. So that takes a little bit of the pressure off sometimes, and it's good to keep.
I wanted to ask you because it seems to me a lot of your songs are written around riffs a little bit, 6 and 7, stuff like that. But the riffs, when you play and you're playing stuff, and I've been playing guitar for a long time, I can't do some of the stuff you're doing when you're playing these riffs while you're singing. So, and what I was going to ask is, to me, it seems like it's because you started as a bass player, and I was wondering if that has anything to do with your writing, because your rhythm playing is really locked in, and your riffs are really locked in while you're singing. I was wondering if you think that has any influence with helping you write rock and roll songs, because you're holding down the.
Man, maybe so. And when Lucero started, Brian had never played guitar, and I'd never played guitar. I just played bass. So the guitar parts, my guitar parts, which were kind of the rhythm guitar parts, had to hold it down. Because Brian, at the time, early Lucero, was just kind of learning little lead lines to put on top of it. And so Lucero kind of started with that as a necessity. Being a bass player I never planned on being a guitarist when I started writing songs, which I got a bass guitar at 14, maybe earlier, 13, and started immediately just writing my own little bass lines on it. And then singing on top of those came real naturally. And I was perfectly happy being a bass player that wrote songs and sang. But then, I got to Memphis and nobody wanted to be in a band with me. And so I had to learn how to play guitar. And then me and Brian learned how to play guitar at the same time. So that's definitely part of the Lucero sound, is that whole bass player into reluctant rhythm guitar player.
Yeah. It's a good sound.
Man, we made it work.
Yeah. The other thing I want to ask about is your background in history and how much you think that influenced. Because, I mean, anybody that listens to your music obviously knows there's, a deep reference for history and deep detail like that.
There's touches of it in there. Different songs, I don't know. Obviously, The War is probably one of the most history-centric songs. And that was about my granddad. And stories, little bits and pieces of stuff I'd heard about him from my father and my grandmother. And a lot of stuff that I'd been reading. I noticed somebody on the comments on when you first posted this had asked about books that were
Yeah.
And the Stephen Ambrose book, Citizen Soldiers, there's a lot from that book that's in the war. And either stuff that I'd heard that was exactly the same as what had happened to my granddad, or stuff that I kind of figured my granddad had probably gone through. And so I definitely borrowed a lot from that book as well for that song. And so, yeah, I was a history major in school, and I still like doing the research. The bike riders, not really history necessarily. I mean, I guess it is in its own way. But yeah, that book was awesome because it was photographs, but it had all these taped interviews that had been transcribed. And that's where a lot of those details for bike riders came from, was these interviews. And actually Jeff Nichols is working on, he's been toying with bike riders as a, I don't know.
Oh, no kidding.
As some kind of project. And so we've talked about it forever, and we'll see if it ever comes to fruition. But he's talked to Danny Lyon, the photographer, and he's gone out and visited him in New Mexico and stuff. And he's got, I think they're online somewhere, you can look them up, but he's got these interviews that are actually, you can listen to them online. And he's got recordings of them. And just hearing these Milwaukee accents from the 60s and Chicago accents from the 60s, it's like, that's a pure Midwestern accent right there. It's like not fucked up by the internet or social media or Sesame Street. It's just pure Chicago accent.
Still water. That water hasn't moved
it's
for a while.
For real.
Yeah. For folks that don't know,
that's a different tangent.
His brother Jeff is like a major American filmmaker. Like,
no shit.
Not even throwing a thing because he's my buddy's brother. He's like
he's got a lot more. Well, he's not on Instagram, so he does not have more Instagram followers than we do. But
I thought I saw a hi from someone earlier.
Facebook.
I thought I saw Missy, but
Missy's on here. Missy's watching. Yeah. Missy sent me a text message during the fucking fiasco at the beginning.
She's like, "Get it together."
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what she said.
But yeah. So let's see. What else were folks asking? Vinny,
Vinny from Mitty?
Yep. He was asking about authors too. That might have been it, but that's the first question. Like, and then
man, that Citizen Soldiers book for sure is a great one to read, and obviously the bike riders. Oh, and just while we're mentioning books that I've stolen stuff from or borrowed stuff from, that Tim O'Brien short stories, The Things They Carried. It's a Vietnam man. It's Vietnam short stories by a guy named Tim O'Brien. They interview him a lot in the Ken Burns Vietnam series that Ken Burns did. But they're brilliant short stories, and everything has changed. There's a little bit borrowed from that short story, The Things They Carried, about burning the letters that from back home that the girl had written him, and burning them in the book. He's in the bottom of his foxhole, and it's raining, and he's got a sterno can, and he's covered up with a poncho, and he's burning these letters because they're distracting him from taking care of his men. This is a lieutenant who's kind of in charge, and but he's always daydreaming about this girl back home. And by the end of the story, he's burning these letters, and I was like, man, that's a great image. And so I allude to that in the song. The song doesn't have a whole lot to do with that story except for that one little scene.
Well, that's the thing. You have to pick your scenes and where to get in with something like that, and that's the whole trick, I think, to writing something that's a big narrative. Is you have to find the what's the blade and what's the axe handle. You got to be able to swing it and hit at the right spot at the right angle, or you're just going to be just listing a lot of detail in a song, and song doesn't hold that.
I was wondering where you were going with that, but yeah, you're right. And you do, and no, you're pretty good at that yourself. You know exactly where that line falls. A
lot of rewriting,
Oh God, yeah. I remember. I don't know where I saw it. One of your Instagram posts and somebody was talking about a first draft of a song, and you're like, oh God, no, no, never.
Yeah.
You never want to hear the first.
No, I would never hear first draft of my song.
Oh, it's horrible.
You know, unless
it's like a fucking 4-year-old wrote it. Actually, our 4-year-olds could probably write better than this. Like, it's horrible.
Ours, good. Yeah. Not most people. It's just ours.
ours are pretty much little geniuses.
Speaking of filmmakers, Craig Brewer just sent me a text and said this interview is great, so I'll take that. Hello, Craig.
Fuck yeah, I'll take that.
We're just shooting shit. It's great now to figure out how to talk to each other. Let's see. Someone asked, did the songwriting change once we became parents? I'll let you field that.
For me, of course. And yeah, you can hear it on Among the Ghosts. Among the Ghosts is the whole album's pretty much about family. And I watched an interview with this guy, Warren Ellis, who's, there's 2 Warren Ellises, and this is the comic book guy. There's like a Netflix thing about him. He's a comic book writer. And it's fine. But the one thing he said that I totally related to was, he's like, there's 2 things people never tell you about having kids. And one is that it's fucking fun as hell. You're going to have so much fun. And the second thing is you're going to be scared for the rest of your life. You're going to be terrified of all the things that could go bad. And he's exactly right. It's fun as hell and terrifying at the same time. And that's what's on Among the Ghosts, I think. And that wasn't in the songwriting before.
Did it change your writing habits? How do you know that when you're home? Do you write at home? Do you write on the road? I personally had to.
No, I can't write on the road at all.
See, I trained myself. Discipline. The only discipline I've ever disciplined myself in 20 years was about a year and a half ago. Since Clint was born, I hadn't been writing. You know, I just get home. I just want to sort of I systematically trained myself to write on the road, and I got like 50 songs out of it last year. But it's because I did that. It wouldn't have happened otherwise. It just would not have happened. So I had to completely. So well, no, it's just insanity though.
Well, you drive. You drive a lot more too. You're driving and you know, talking into the voice recorder and trying to. Man, I don't drive as much as I used to.
Yeah, I'm talking in the voice recorder. I'm definitely not typing while I'm driving down there.
Well, no, not typing. No, of course. And just recording.
I type
melody ideas and lyric ideas. And if I drove more, I used to drive all the time between Memphis and Little Rock, and I got a lot of songwriting done in that 2.5 hours between Memphis and Little Rock in the old days. Yeah, driving by yourself is one of the best ways to write songs. I still support that as a theory, and I don't do it enough. Yeah, I don't drive like I used to, which is because I drink more. But yeah. How long have we been doing this? What time is it? We got a 15-minute late start anyway, so.
Yeah. We'll keep going for a little bit, and we'll field some questions and stuff. I'll structure these things as we go further on, but we're just doing this one loose. What you sipping there?
I just saw somebody ask me the Colonel E.H. Taylor small batch.
Nice.
It's good. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they do TV commercials, but if they do, they should call me. All right.
Oh yeah, that's right. The voice of Jack Daniels. I fucking love that.
Yeah. I did a couple of those.
Well, I
got lucky.
I didn't watch Super Bowl, but I looked up the ad afterwards.
Yep, it did play during the Super Bowl, which is pretty cool. So yeah, no, those guys at the ad agency were awesome. They were really cool guys. It was very nice of them to ask me to do that. And I've got some Gentleman Jack in there. I still drink the Jack Daniels sometimes.
Yeah, you know.
But this is really nice bourbon.
I wanted to ask too. It's a little bit of a continuation from before, but when you're approaching, which is just insane. I would never have done this. The monumental task of writing songs about Blood Meridian. Using that as a starting point to write these songs. I mean, that's like 2 Bibles glued together. That book, and it's.
I don't know. It's easier to read than the Bible for me, but for a lot of people, it's not. And I really honestly think it's just you got to get used to his, what do you call it, syntax or.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I love him. I love the man.
Like once you get in the flow of it, it's like watching a fucking Western film, like an actual. there's a lot of detail in there. And yeah, and there's going to be words that you don't know, and you just don't worry about those. You just read, keep reading, and just pretend like you soaked in the sound, and it's fine. And the word, the way it sounded, just it was evocative of whatever, dirt. I don't know what it was, but
how did that project start? Did you start with one song that you were just sort of, I'm going to write the song, or did you say, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to write all these characters, and I'm going to take a run at this mountain? You know?
A little bit. It was, I'd read it this the second time through, and I've been underlining stuff I liked, and I was like, man, there's so many good, like just that one line, you could take that and that's your whole chorus, or that's the first line of a song, or that's brilliant. And there were a whole lot of those lines, and I just lifted them right out of there. And the first song I wrote for that was Chambers, which is kind of a slower song. It's really long. And for that one, I actually did a bunch of research because it's about a character who's only in the book for a couple of pages out of the 500 or 600 pages long the book is. And this guy is only in it for 2 or 3 pages. But it tells a story in one paragraph. And I'm like, that's a whole novel right there.
Yeah.
And so I had to make sure if I was he was a soldier, and I knew where he was from, but I had to figure out, who he would have fought with in the Mexican War, and where he would have come from, and what battles he might have fought in. And then he went back to America, and then tried to get back to his girl in Mexico. And I had to make sure the dates were right, and make sure
you research. You flat out.
I did. I Google searched. I remember Google searching a whole lot about the Mexican-American War, and military units that were there and that kind of thing. I wanted to make sure it was at least close to being right. And then I got that one, and I liked it so much. I was like, all right, let's use some more stuff out of Blood Meridian. And really, I probably would have done a full length. I probably would have done 10 songs, except I was trying to get it done in time to go on that first revival tour with Chuck Reagan. Yeah. And so I had to, and I still didn't get it out in time for revival tour, but I was trying, and so I only did 7 songs instead of 10. But it's still, I think that qualifies as an album, actually.
When they're that dense, yeah, those songs are.
I think so.
Packed.
And so yeah, it was. Those lines are just so good, and it kind of broke my heart that, not that I'm bringing Cormac McCarthy to the world or anything, but I wanted them to be used in ways other than being read silently in people's minds, like putting them in a song and giving them a little bit of a different kind of life. I thought it was fun for me. And yeah, no, that record has gotten a lot of good response. People have been real nice about that one.
Did you do that one all yourself in the house, or where did you do that one? I can't remember.
Doug Easley. I did it.
Okay,
at Easley.
I couldn't remember if that was Nebraska style or if it was somewhere. Yeah,
I've got Nebraska style demos for most of that, which maybe at the 25-year anniversary we'll do a re-release, a double LP with the album, the studio version, and then the demos. But no, I went in with Doug Easley, and it was just me and Rick Steff and Todd Beene, and we did it in like 2 days. It was real quick, but it was cool. So yeah, and people are like, so what novel are you going to do next? I'm like, it doesn't work that way.
A lot of work.
That's I don't read. There's not a lot of books I read 5 or 6 times. Blood Meridian might be the only book I've ever read.
Well, it's also, there's not a lot of books like Blood Meridian. It's
not at all. And it is like the Bible.
Yeah, well, Harold Bloom talks about it in the same sentence as Moby Dick in the intro there, And
I read Moby Dick, and that was a chore. I know you probably love Moby Dick.
Well, I love certain chapters of it. I'll read The Whiteness of the Whale when we're done,
God bless America. That book, I understand, but it's, that was
I did it on tape. I think I
that's
still
the way
in the library.
No shit. That's the way to do it.
I still own a library, and there were cassettes. I mean, like they filled up the back of my car. Like there were so many cassettes.
Did you check them out from the library? And
oh yeah, and I never took them back. I guess because I thought I did, but yeah, for years it was like this $200 thing. I was like, cassettes, $200? What are they?
Yeah,
only one.
Apparently, I have children's books at the Wadsworth Library now. We check them out, and I intend to take Izzy back to the library within 2.5 weeks, but then all of a sudden it's 2 months later, and now we own these 5 children's books.
Well, the Memphis one stopped doing the fines. They have no fines anymore. Basically, it's just a free for all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and not even because of the
no. They eventually charge you the price of the book here, and I'm like, fine, I'll just buy the book.
Yeah, that was what.
But then I usually take it back. I'm like, that's kind of giving back. All right, so yeah, Blood Meridian. It was a nice exercise, and I love those songs, but I probably won't do. It's not like I'm going to pick another book to do. No.
Yeah, you have some really different, like Stark. Those kind of songs are so starkly different from songs like The War and some of those that are full character songs. And then you have songs that are obviously written as you, or not, as you, but as that are very much in your voice. And then you have the fourth kind, which are the rock and roll songs. I always loved the idea that Springsteen, what he said on the river with trying to be a concept album, he was like, I'm going to write all these songs that are all these characters, and then I'm going to write a whole other second record that is the songs these characters play from the jukebox on Saturday night when they put their money in the jukebox. Those are those songs that they listen to.
Oh shit, that's what he said.
Yeah. And I'm, obviously paraphrasing, but that was the idea. And so that's why there's some. You got the river, and you got some dumb rock songs on there. And I say dumb in like I love.
I mean, is that oh shit, A Wife and Kid in Baltimore Jack, Hungry Heart? Is that on that?
I'm blanking, but I thought that was.
You can ask Brian Fallon.
Yeah. We'll ask Brian next week. So what I was getting at is when you're like, you have an idea and you're like, okay, this is going to be a rock and roll song. Because I've heard you talk about it before. You were like, for these, I'm not sweating the lyrics because they're rock and roll and they're. Yeah. And so what, do you consciously jump persona? How do you know when you start writing?
Yeah.
What kind of song?
Yeah, you do. I think everybody's got, and this is the awesome part about, I don't know, life today. You don't have to stick to one genre. You don't have to, like, and this comic, the one, and he was just talking kind of off the top of his head, and he was saying, man, I wish I was the guy that just listened to like one type of music and just did one type of thing, like was 100% into rockabilly or ska or whatever. And you're like, man, or just that kind of guy. He's just a mechanic and he listens to classic rock radio and he doesn't know jack shit about anything else. And he's just pure America, not corrupted by the internet and all these other fucking genres. He just a simple man. He listens to that song a lot. And just, you want to be that guy. You want to be pure. Like you think our ancestors were. My grandfathers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think the Pilgrims really only stepped to the one station classic.
But as soon as you say that, that sounds terrible. That sounds awful. I don't want to be stuck listening to ska forever just because I thought it was cool that year.
At one point.
I would like to branch out. And so, yeah, I think we all have these different kind of personalities. And yeah, I love The Cure and The Smiths. I also love Hank Williams and Willie Nelson. And it goes on and on. And I love that Lucero as a band, I can actually I can pretend to be this genre for a few songs. And then I can go over here and be The Cure for a few songs. And then I can go over here and, be Bruce Springsteen or, as close as I can get to 1984. But
yeah, it helps that you have such a strong filter to filter it through because you sound like you. That's what I always talk about, Tom. People that
I hope so.
I jump genres and stuff too. I don't consider.
Of course you do.
I always sort of think, well, this song needs this because it's asking for this. But
the song dictates where it wants to go a lot of times.
But you have somebody like Tom Waits who pulls from every bit of American roots music that's ever existed. He pulls from German stage music. He pulls this crazy shit out of his ass, but it always sounds like Tom Waits. I mean, you have the ballad ear and you have the clangy clang beating the shit out of a, you know, anvil.
Right.
You have those sort of things, but it's filtered through a strong sound, which is his voice. You have a strong sound, which is your voice. And so do you think people get those jumps, or they're just like,
I don't know.
I think you have a broad.
I don't know. I think probably not.
Well, that's the thing. It's not your.
I think everyone has their own Lucero. Like we all have our own El Guapo. For some of us, El Guapo. It's a whatever. Yeah, you know this. You know the movie.
I know.
But everyone has their own Lucero. And yeah, they hear the other songs, and they might even know the influences that are affecting this type of a song as opposed to this song, but they just don't hear it, and that's fine. For them, Lucero is all sewn up with bad tattoos and Drink Toward Gone, and then everything else is like, yeah, it's Lucero, it's good, but they're like, oh yeah, of course you're a country band. I'm like, we haven't been a country band since like ever, actually, really.
As soon as somebody hears
dip my toe in there.
As soon as they hear the accent, there's no way, you know. Some people just balk at the accent.
And I played it up big time in the early days. Now I'm trying to sing as, I don't know, not as straight as possible, but as not dumb as possible. I'm trying to make it, I don't know. I'm the least campy I can make it is what I'm, and my voice is always going to be campy to me. But yeah, in the old days, I turned up the twang on the lyrics. And today I'm trying to sing it a little more dialed down.
Well, also, how much of that was a persona that you know, because like for me, because my thing is like, no persona, that's the whole point, but it is a exaggerated version of myself, because it's that or vomit, you know, from the beginning. That was my choice.
That's where the drinking comes from too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was
going to ask. It was terrifying.
How much of that in the first thought was protecting yourself behind a bit of a persona, you know? Because
I know
that's gone by the, you know, that stuff sheds after a while when you become professional. But do you think that influenced it, you know?
It did. It was terrifying, and especially knowing what we knew, the fact that Brian and I, neither one of us could play guitar to save our lives, and we're getting up in front of however many people, 6 people at a time, tens, dozens in the heyday, dozens of people were there, and we had no idea what we were doing. So yes, I didn't drink a whole lot before the band started, but then it went hand in hand, and I took to it pretty well, and it helped. And then I don't know, and then it hurt. It helped, and then it hurt.
It's a grade, and then it's a cliff. Yeah,
and then it's not good anymore. So yeah, and we spent the last 15 out of the last 15 years trying to dig ourselves out of that ditch that we drank ourselves into.
Climbing a whiskey cross. Yeah, so thanks for doing this. Let's let some folks. We're gonna wind down here and let some folks ask some questions real quick. If you have anything, fire it. And I really appreciate
we're looking at the comments now.
Just now. I was trying to watch it.
So they've been asking questions for the last 45 minutes.
Oh, it's so patting my head, rubbing my belly with that. I can't think.
Now we're gonna pay attention.
I'm gonna find a structure.
Best barbecue in Memphis. I don't know. Uncle Tupelo in their place. God damn it, they're going by too fast for me.
Right? They're tiny. They're like this big.
Well, they're tiny, and Treme was fun. God bless. I can't read any of these. With the split screen, they chop off like I can't read a whole question.
So next album. Somebody's asking about the next album.
Next album, I'm hoping to record it in May. If I can get into Sam Phillips Studio. I got these 16 songs that I'm working on. Yep. This is
that's 16 more than you go in with sometimes.
100%.
So over-prepared.
I'm pretty prepared. I've got a lot of songs that need that one tweak, that one line. I got a lot of, I've got the meat, but I need I just need something to make it, I don't know, really special. But yeah, I got 16 songs, at least to bring to the guys and, you know, try to work up. 6 of them have lyrics. So we're doing pretty good. This is a whole list of, these are a bunch of things from this, Irish Folktales book that I'm going to steal this and this and this.
Oh, which collection is that?
I bought it in the 90s. Irish Folktales.
I don't have that one. I'm a big fan of folk stories.
It's probably been out of print since the 80s.
Have you read the Italian folktales one that Italo Calvino? I don't know if I say that guy's name right. He's such a good writer. But the Italian ones are so great because they do that thing like some of the Argentinian writers will do. Well, they'll bring up something and they'll tell you a bunch of things that they don't know. They'll be like, well, I don't know about that. It's just the way they have these offhand sort of digressions a little bit, and they'll start telling something and be like, but I only really heard about that, so I don't know. So it lends authenticity to the stuff that they are going to tell you about, even though it's all, you know, it's a really meandering sort of delivery, and I love that about Italian folktales.
I'll keep that in the back of my mind. And,
yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I'll think on that a little bit. But yeah, it's been Irish Folktales now. There'll be a little bit of that shows up in the new record.
Yeah, Calvino. That's what. Well, cool. Well, man, thanks for doing this. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, they'll get more structured. That's why I started with Ben, because I know he could put up my bullshit.
I thought it was great. Yeah, and the bad part with me is I get a few whiskeys in me. I'm like, let's do this for 3 hours.
Well, that's the sort of thing. I'm like, I want to do it 30 minutes. My wife said 30 minutes isn't going to work with you and Ben. And little did you know,
this is a good start.
Turn the thing on.
It was good. It was a good start.
Cool.
Go talk to Brian Fallon and we'll get the beginning dialed in.
Yeah.
And talk to a couple other guys. Man, you gotta have. There's other guys that have committed to this already, right?
Oh yeah,
you know so many guys.
I've got 9 people lined up.
Holy shit, you got 9 episodes already. Yeah. That's awesome.
And they're all kind of bangers.
So, do those 9, and then I'll come back for the 10th anniversary show.
When I figure out what the hell's going on, we'll come back and we'll, you know.
Exactly.
So I appreciate it. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, I got nothing else to say. I'm going to play us out with the song.
I'm signing off.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm doing this shit again. I did this about 10 minutes before. A grown man.
I can tell.
I'm collaging. I'm a grown man.
Could be like Tim Berry. Start scrapbooking. I'm watching all the credits.